Those who have attachment wounds or had early relational trauma often in adulthood come across power struggles in their relationship. They often have survival-like fear responses related to their relationships. They might feel this internally as the experience of stress kind of following them throughout different relationships, especially where there is a power differential. That fear, that stress seems to follow them. Or for them, it might feel like they can't escape the same type of relational stressors, the same type of person, the same type of unpredictable environment or situation that keeps them on edge, stressed out, waiting for something bad to happen. These patterns are often created in the original blueprints, which is our first relationships, our first attachment. And if in those relationships or in those environments there was an unpredictability or things that happened that fell outside of our control, like we couldn't anticipate them, couldn't predict them, and that created a sense of danger for us, that created a sense of survival fear. That fear actually makes sense when we are young. Our survival truly does depend on our attachment figures. We as humans are not independent as children. There are other species that have their offspring are like independent right away, but with humans, we are codependent. We are reliant on our parents, on our attachment figures, those who raise us, for our physical safety and survival. So we know that we have to be a part of that system. We have to fit into it correctly and be accepted in order for us to receive those survival resources and to stay a part of that pact that is important to us. Here is the thing though, I see in adults who carry these attachment wounds that haven't quite been fully resolved. That is that they experience the same level of fear or that survival response, and they have a hard time seeing that they are now safe in their jobs with their boss or with colleagues or even with their social circle, their friends, or in romantic relationships. So what that looks like is often kind of an amplification of whatever conflict or thing is going on for them, meaning they project kind of this sense of fear or this bigger survival fear that still sits with them from that unresolved experience of always having to be on edge, always having to try to predict the unpredictable, and experiences where difficult things, bad things, traumatizing things did happen. And so we carry that expectation, and we carry the expectation of needing to manage that. And so we will project that fear and that survival response onto these now relationships as an adult. And the question that we can ask ourselves is, will I die from this? Will I die if this interaction doesn't go well? Will I survive genuinely, physically, if I don't have a positive interaction with a coworker? If my partner is upset at me for a few days, will I physically survive that? And it's in these exact situations where we can recognize that we are physically safe, that our protector parts will create stories that continue to make us feel like we're not in these situations. They might not outright say, you're in danger, your survival is in danger. They might say something like, this person is out to get you, or they secretly don't like you. They might say things like, maybe you're not really worthy of this situation. Or it just might show up simply as a kind of thought distortion where we only can see the negative. We can't really access the areas where we have choice, the areas where things actually are going well or might go well. We tend to just focus or feel into the survival aspects, the stress aspects of these situations. And one of the most difficult aspects of this dynamic is that often when we have those inner fear responses, when we are feeling on edge, this shows up in our nervous system. Even if we're trying to contain it, if we feel that wounds, if we feel that survival risk here and that amplification of it, we're gonna experience that in our nervous system. And that will be received or noticed by the other person involved usually. When our nervous system is in that fear response, it can be harder to de-escalate conflicts, de-escalate them within ourselves and with others. Sometimes we can get some reinforcement or kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because as we experience that hypervigilance, as we experience the survival that shows up as being hypervigilant and the nervous system activation in our body, other people might sense this. It's kind of a felt experience for others, and that can often put them on their defense. That can often put them into their own stress, into their own wounds or survival fears, and we then kind of see this mirrored experience, and we see the situation as a whole become or feel more amplified, which continues to reaffirm our internal story that we aren't safe. When we do work with our identity and healing the attachment wounds that have been left over from our earlier experiences, we can process through this and change our experience.